As you scale up from just one Kanban or Scrum team, what you'll find is at the release train level, there are plenty of economies of scale that can occur when it comes to investment planning and innovation accounting. Now, what that really means is taking your product metrics and your lean metrics and ensuring that you do something called hypothesis-driven development. We'll get into more of what that is. Up here in the investment cycle, of course, this really just means have the discipline to start and finish something and to take the time at frequent intervals to communicate about what you have accomplished and let that inform subsequent investment decisions at the epic level. Let's dig into how this works. Now remember, what we really want to do is hold things at the cheapest place that we can at every step in the value stream. So planning, of course, is something that we'll articulate as an epic as soon as we know that funding is committed. If you only have one funding mechanism for the entire release train, then that's the easy part. On a frequent basis, you renew your funding, and you can just keep this planning cycle for your investment Kanban. Now, here, what you do need to do is have a high-level strategic intent and define what success looks like at that highest possible level. What you don't want to do is overplan or get into the nitty-gritty at this point. You really just want to have a good business case. At that point, you can begin looking at your existing metrics for your product and for your market and start doing things like analytics, research, definition of what metrics you would capture next, benchmarking, and customer interviews. Those need to inform the design that you do. Things like rapid prototyping, including wireframes or a lightweight HTML, should be used for customer testing to make sure that as disposably as possible, you can get some A/B testing out of the way on multiple possibilities for your design. It's much cheaper to iterate here than it is to iterate way down here once you're already building. Now then, once you've gotten all of that together, your metrics team ought to be able to work with the product owner to establish what the metrics are that will chart the actual success of this investment and make a clear, falsifiable hypothesis. I believe social media integration will increase completion rates of this feature by 5% because. If you don't state it as a falsifiable hypothesis, it's not an experiment. And that's the entire point of innovation accounting. Without that, you can justify anything once you're done. But with it, the entire organization can run experiments that prove whether or not the hypothesis was correct. Otherwise, what we find is you justify anything you can and blame the people for failure rather than the experiment in the long run. As we said when we started, the whole idea here is to scale in time. So this planning bucket could be potentially very full and stay that way for a very long time with almost nothing spent on it, which means it's very easy to dispose of what we've already done and update it. And that's a nice problem to have. By the time we get over to decomposition, of course, we're starting to engage far more people, and we've already invested quite a bit in stating the hypothesis and designing the initial experiment for the customer to tell us whether or not we were on the right track. So we decompose this epic into stories, potentially tasks, technical cards if you have them. Maybe there's back-end integrations or frameworks, proofs of concept. You can divide all that up and begin delivering them. Once you begin delivery, that's also the perfect time for anybody on the reporting side to begin preparing the laboratory, whether that's analytics tagging, tool setup, or building the reports. Once delivery is done through your sprint cycle, you put it in production, and at that point, we're really running experiments, whether that's canary analysis or just analyzing product metrics. We want to see if the falsifiable hypothesis is true or not. If it's not, we want the hypothesis to fail, based on the impact percentage we predicted, and we want that to inform, through validation, our next investment decision. Your metrics people will probably do a great job analyzing the results with you and making some strong recommendations. When we report conclusions and we say that this is done, we need to make sure that this isn't just gone. We want to draw real, actual learning. Otherwise, it's not innovation. It's just doing. When you're pinging the market, when you're signaling it in a state of risk and uncertainty, information is the most important thing that you can actually gain through the investment and innovation cycle.